Every argument you lost control in. Every conflict where words poured from you like a hemorrhage you couldn't stop. Every confrontation where you explained yourself, justified yourself, defended yourself to someone who didn't deserve a single syllable. You handed them everything. You gave them your composure. You gave them your dignity. You gave them the satisfaction of watching you unravel while they stood there, feeding on your emotional collapse like vultures circling a dying animal. And the worst part? You felt it afterward. That sickening wave of regret. That hollow self-hatred at 3 a.m. when you replayed every word, every raised voice, every moment you wish you could erase. You spoke when you should have been stone. You reacted when you should have been void, and they won. Not because they were smarter, not because they were right, but because you bled, and they watched. This is the universal cold truth that separates men who dominate from men who drown. Weak men react and regret. Powerful men stay silent and rule. The man who erupts is the man who loses. The man who withholds is the man who commands. This is not opinion. This is the mathematics of power that has governed courts, battlefields, and thrones for 3,000 years. Tonight, you master the art of making enemies beg for your words. You learn to reverse the dynamic so completely that those who once provoked you will chase your approval like dogs starving for scraps from a master who no longer acknowledges their existence. Once you grasp this, no argument, no conflict, no enemy will ever extract another drop from you. Niccolò Machiavelli spent years in the courts of Renaissance Italy, observing princes rise and fall with the precision of a surgeon documenting disease. He watched men of great military power crumble because they could not govern their tongues. He watched lesser men ascend to thrones because they understood one principle that escaped the loud, the reactive, the emotionally incontinent. The prince who speaks least rules longest. In the prince, he observed that men judge by appearances, and the leader who maintains composure in chaos appears divine while others appear animal. He noted that explanations are weakness made audible. Justifications are surrender made verbal. The moment you open your mouth to defend yourself against an inferior, you have elevated them to your level and then dropped below it. Sun Tzu understood this in warfare. Let your plans be dark and impenetrable as night, and when you move, fall like a thunderbolt. The general who reveals nothing controls the battlefield. The general who speaks, explains, and reacts has handed his enemy a map to his destruction. Most men today erupt like fools in conflict. They argue on social media. They send walls of text to people who disrespected them. They raise their voices to partners who have already stopped listening. They chase closure from those who owe them nothing. You will not be that man. Silence is your throne. The less you say, the more they fear you. Remember this like scripture. Now observe what unfolds in their mind when you withhold words in the heat of conflict. The human brain is wired for reciprocity. When someone attacks, it expects counterattack. When someone provokes, it expects reaction. This is neurological programming from 1,000,000 years of tribal warfare. When you deny them this reciprocity, when you offer nothing but silence where they expected explosion, their brain enters a state of profound dissonance. It cannot process the absence. It begins to fill the void with its own material, and that material is always fear. Watch them closely. The first 30 seconds of your silence, they feel triumphant. They believe they have won. But then the cracks appear. They glance at you, searching for reaction. They find nothing. Their confidence wavers. By the second minute, their internal narrative begins to fracture. Why isn't he responding? What is he thinking? What does he know that I don't? By the fifth minute, paranoia sets in. They begin to question whether they went too far. They wonder what consequences await them that they cannot see. By the hour, they are replaying the encounter obsessively. By the day, they are drafting messages they delete, explanations they never send. They want to reach out, to resolve, to understand why you've become a wall of ice, but their pride won't let them. So they sit in the prison you built with your absence. Their cortisol rises, their sleep fractures. They check their phone expecting contact that never comes. They mention you to friends, fishing for insight they'll never receive. And all the while, you have done nothing. You have said nothing. You have simply become the silence that echoes in their skull, inescapable. This is the dark machinery of power. The less you give, the more they need. The less you speak, the louder your silence screams. You become not a person but an absence, and absences cannot be argued with, cannot be defeated, cannot be satisfied. You become the void. 6 ways to wield. Silence as a blade in the conflict. 1. When attacked, do not respond, do not explain, withdraw. The moment someone disrespects you, insults you, or attempts to provoke you, your instinct will scream to defend yourself. Strangle that instinct. Let the attack land on nothing. Offer no defense, no counter-argument, no acknowledgement that their words reached you at all. Simply withdraw your presence, your energy, your attention. Machiavelli noted that the appearance of being unaffected by insult is more powerful than any retaliation, because retaliation proves the wound, while silence proves immunity. When you withdraw without response, they are left swinging at air. Their momentum carries them forward into nothing. They stumble, they look foolish, and they know it. Like an archer who fires at a shadow only to watch his arrow disappear into darkness, they have wasted their weapon on void. This is how silence disarms. 2. Let them fill your silence with their own fear. When you refuse to speak, you create a vacuum, and nature abhors a vacuum. Their mind will rush to fill it with interpretations, most of which will be worse than reality. They will assume you are planning something. They will assume you are more wounded than you are, or more dangerous than you are. They will project their own guilt, their own insecurities, their own fears into the empty space you have created. Sun Tzu wrote, "All warfare is based on deception, but the highest deception is giving nothing at all and allowing the enemy to deceive himself. You need not craft elaborate plans. Simply be absent, and they will construct their own nightmares. Like a prisoner in a dark cell who hears footsteps but sees nothing, they will imagine terrors far greater than any you could deliver. This is how silence multiplies. 3. When they demand explanation, offer none. They will ask why you are being distant. They will demand to know what you are thinking. They will accuse you of games, of manipulation, of cruelty. Let them. Offer nothing, not one word of justification, not one syllable of clarity. The moment you explain yourself, you hand them control. You give them the satisfaction of understanding you, predicting you, managing you. Machiavelli observed that the prince who can be understood can be controlled, while the prince who remains unknowable remains untouchable. Your refusal to explain is not childish silence. It is strategic opacity. It is the refusal to be mapped by inferior minds. Like a fortress with no visible gates, you force them to circle endlessly, finding no entry. This is how silence protects. 4. Let time become your weapon. The immediate response is the weak man's curse. The powerful man lets hours pass, days, weeks. Each moment of delay amplifies their uncertainty. Each hour of your absence becomes heavier than the last. Sun Tzu understood that timing is as crucial as force. The quality of decision is like the well-timed swoop of a falcon, which enables it to strike and destroy its victim. But the falcon does not swoop immediately. It waits. It circles. It lets the prey exhaust itself in panic. Only then does it strike. When you delay your response indefinitely or never respond at all, you become time itself, slow and indifferent and crushing. They age in your silence, their confidence erodes, their certainty dissolves. And when you finally move, if you ever move at all, they are already defeated by the waiting. This is how silence erodes. 5. Remove your presence entirely. Physical and digital absence is the nuclear option of silent warfare. Block without announcement. Disappear without explanation. Remove yourself from their world so completely that they cannot even confirm your existence. This drives the reactive mind to madness. They cannot argue with someone who isn't there. They cannot win against an opponent who has left the arena. Machiavelli noted that the prince who removes himself from petty conflicts appears above them, almost divine in his detachment. When you vanish from their world, you become a ghost they cannot exorcise. They will look for you in crowds. They will search for your name in feeds. They will wonder obsessively where you went and why. Like a king who abandons a province without conquest, leaving it to its own chaos, you let them destroy themselves in your absence. This is how silence haunts. 6. When they finally kneel, speak only in commands. Eventually some will break, they will reach out. They will apologize or attempt to reconcile or beg to understand what happened. This is the moment of maximum danger. Your instinct will be to explain, to process, to find closure together. Resist this with every fiber of your being. When you finally speak, if you choose to speak at all, speak only in commands. Short sentences. No explanations. No processing of the past. You dictate terms. You do not negotiate feelings. Sun Tzu wrote, "He will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight." Now that they have surrendered, you are not fighting. You are accepting tribute. Like a Spartan king who endured insults in council and said nothing, only to watch the insulter kneel in dread days later, begging for words that would never come, you have reversed the dynamic completely. They chased your approval. They begged for your voice, and you gave only silence, then command. This is how silence conquers. You now possess 6 blades most men will never sharpen, 6 methods of warfare they will never understand, 6 ways to transform every conflict from a wound into a throne. Wield them coldly, wield them without mercy, wield them in utter silence. You no longer react, you no longer explain, you no longer bleed in conflict. This is the moment you cease being the fool who argues, the boy who erupts, the weak man who hands his power to anyone who provokes him. You become instead the shadow that commands, the absence that rules, the void that cannot be filled, cannot be satisfied, cannot be defeated. Every word you withhold becomes a weapon. Every silence becomes a sentence. Every absence becomes an empire of fear built in the hollow space where your reaction should have been. You are now untouchable. You are now silent. You are now sovereign. I am the void. If this cut deep, if you felt the recognition of old wounds and the cold promise of their healing, inscribe in the comments, "I am the void." Let it seal this transformation in digital permanence. Like this video. Subscribe to this channel. Turn on notifications. Return when the next blade is forged. Weak men will argue with the screen, already composing objections, already leaking power through their need to respond. They will scroll away, unchanged, unsharpened. Powerful men will act in silence. They will close this video and speak less today than they did yesterday. They will become absence. They will become void. Which one are you? History remembers no man for the arguments he won, only for the silence that made kings kneel. In the void of your words, empires of fear are born.